how's it going? It's me, Yoko. For those who don't know me, I am a Japanese living in Japan who is a huge Trump supporter, and for those who already know me, I hope that you haven't forgotten about me. My stomach still hurts, but I had to come back today no matter what because I am really angry at this American experts who wrote this amateur article on a Japanese issue that I couldn't take it anymore. I cannot take this anymore. Seriously guys, this professor of University of Connecticut named Alexis Dudden wrote an article on East Asia Forum titled Abe caught out on school scandal, and it's a bunch of bullshit. Someone is politically incorrect lately, but whatever. I'll link the article below, so check it out if you like beforehand. This story though keeps evolving, so keep in mind that I'm filming this on March 21st, 2017, and that this video will focus on Professor Dudden's misunderstandings and misleadings on Japan, which is her profession. Apparently, Prime Minister Abe has been busy dealing with this made-up scandal by the mainstream media and the leftists here while the North Korean threat is rising for us. But before I get started, some of you might be wondering like who the heck is Alexis Dudden to begin with. So long story short, she is an extremely biased leftist professor from the US who hates and bashes Japan, and she's been spreading lies about East Asia for years, like probably for a couple of decades. And yeah, of course she can do that because she has the status as an expert. According to the information on the University of Connecticut website, her areas of specialty is modern Japan, modern Korea, international history, and the biography section says Alexis Dudden received her BA from Columbia University in 1991 and her PhD in history from the University of Chicago in 1998. Also, according to the diploma article of Intro from 2015, she has conducted extensive research on Japan's role in the Pacific War, US policy in East Asia, and current environmental and security issues in East Asia. She's the author of 2 books, Troubled Apologies Among Japan, Korea, and the United States, and Japan's Colonization of Korea. Colonization? That's wrong. Discourse and Power. And she seems to be writing a new book, but I'll put more information in the description box below, so check it out. In Japan, she's known as an anti-Japan, liar who keeps lying, especially on comfort women issue and so on. To me, she sounds like such a big-headed expert with such a career on Japan with a PhD and everything. But now you guys are with me right now, which is a great thing because this Japanese woman right here without any PhD whatsoever will destroy all her points. So I hope that you will enjoy this video. Before I get started, I have to explain about the scandal she wrote about, or else this video will not make sense to you. So this what she calls scandal does exist, but it was created by the leftists here. And the target is Prime Minister Abe and this incorporated educational institution in Toyonaka City, Osaka Prefecture, Japan, called Moritomo Gakuen. So Moritomo is usually categorized as conservative, and they operate private kindergartens and nurseries, which often get called as overly nationalistic. So local news media began reporting that Moritomo seems to have acquired the land for the elementary school from the government at around 1/10 of what it was worth. And also Prime Minister Abe's wife Akie was to become honorary principal of the school because there seems to be no illegal things going on, and because the leftist intention is to bash conservatives and Abe administration, they changed the topic about the issue like 12 times already on the same educational institution. So what happened was that at the budget committee last month, the left politicians started to bash Prime Minister Abe, saying that he has a close connection to the institution. And if you're new to my channel, you might wonder what kind of politician is Prime Minister Abe. He is conservative and he's got a lot of enemies even inside of his own party. But he's a great politician fighting against all the leftists. And the cabinet support rate is very high, and they have a historical amount of seats. And what's amazing is that he already has a strong bond with President Trump because they're fighting against the same enemies. So that should explain enough for you, I hope. So this article, which this American leftist expert Dudden wrote, you might think like, oh, this is about Japan and it has nothing to do with you. But this is about Prime Minister Abe, who is a great friend of President Trump. Plus, it's what an American professor is saying, so I hope that you'll stick till the end because like there's a reason why I am making this video in English. So let me get started with something that was the most shocking thing ever coming from an expert. You guys will like it. So Dudden says in the article, raising their hands in a Heil Hitler pose have shocked many observers. What? I was like, what on earth is she referring to? Not only that, she later wrote something on the line which was the image of children raising Heil Abe salutes. What? I guess that she was talking about the kids' athletes' oath of fair play on their sports day at school. If so, I'm like tearing up. Nobody in Japan is shocked or even talking about what she calls Heil Hitler pose because we all raise our freaking hand and do the exact same thing at any school sports day in entire Japan. It's not only that way at the private school, but also in other private schools or in public schools. And it's not only that way in kindergartens, it is also in other grades as well. And it's not only that way in schools, but also in baseball or kendo, karate or swimming, like all kinds of sports and martial arts field, or even like commercials on TV. Like you do see this everywhere in Japan, and there's no political meaning behind it. Just Google Senshu Sensei or Sensei, you will get a ton of pictures to prove. So the children were doing the oath on their sports day, and the media did keep playing the scene, but it is not because of the pose, but because of the content, which was the words to support Prime Minister Abe. That's why we're talking about connection to begin with. I can't believe that she could do this because she is supposed to be an expert and she just made a point that's as stupid as these or these or these. So I'm guessing the reason why she thought that way is because she had a mindset or view as the institution being right-wing or conservative, and therefore she believed that the kids are doing it as Hitler salute. This is my humble, honest question, but how can somebody think like that if they have any experience of living here? Because everybody knows about it. Like you can never miss it, but somehow Dudden did. And now I am shocked. Oh, what a bad sense of humor. What Dudden either didn't know about or tried to deceive American readers on was what school kids have always done in Japan, and her children probably did that or was part of it as well, while she thought that they were listening to Totoro songs and being peaceful and whatnot, like she mentions at the end of the article. For your information, a similar thing that we do here in Japan is called Ganbaro Call. It's like let's do this kind of pose that we do. Like, so we express our energy or spirits at political events like elections, but also in other occasions as well. And it looks like this. By the way, for your information, the red sash says the Japanese Communist Party. Dun dun dun. Of course it's red. Or this. This is the party that I've been supporting. Or this, which is my party that I held. So basically it's a pose of like, yeah, we're gonna do this. Yeah. It's like I got higher, I guess. Some people commented on my videos and said that this pose looks like Hitler salutes, and I'm like, no, it's just some silly thing that we do here in Japan. Anyways, back to Dudden. This is the expert from your country, guys, if you're from America. And what looks similar to outsiders doesn't even look similar to us, and it doesn't even mean the same to us Japanese. The more you know. And most importantly, what looks strange doesn't mean illegal. It's just your preference. So why bring it up like that in an article, especially if you are an expert? That was very childish and very unprofessional of Dudden to do. I mean, like, what's there to expose? Everybody knows it, everybody does it. So get over it. Or is she looking down on American readers and expects that they wouldn't notice? Now that's very rude. So even though Dudden was completely wrong on something as simple as a sportsman's oath that is done in every school here, let's take a look at all the rest of the other things she completely gets wrong in her article about Japan. And yes, it's gonna be so long because she makes many mistakes, but let's do this. So at the beginning of the article, she says that there's a growing scandal, but is that so? No, I don't think so, because that's a topic that leftists are taking out of context and it's turning into something else from the original problem, and that's why it feels like it's growing. And Dudden says Moritomo Gakuen, the institution, is currently under scrutiny in the Japanese parliament and press because of its close connection to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Is that true? No. because leftists are only saying that, you know, like it's a one-sided bashing. I need to ask her, like, where did she get that idea from? There's no such connection that they expect from Prime Minister Abe to have, and that's why he betted his political life at the committee last month, like right away. And if leftists are so sure about the connection between Prime Minister Abe and the institution, why haven't they showed any proof of that already? You know, why doesn't Dudden show that? What we have found so far is only people talking and talking, especially from the institution side, and we don't get to hear from who dealt with the institution and so on. It's probably better than yours, but just like in your country, our mainstream media here is very, very rotten, and the Japanese people, including conservatives and some media people from the like small media people, are complaining that the mainstream media need to check if it's true or not before they report what one side says as it is, you know. Dudden also wrote, Mrs. Abe had publicly expressed support for Moritomo Gakuen's Mizuhonokuni Elementary School, stating that it is wonderful, remarkable, and fosters children to have pride as Japanese and a strong inner self. She did give compliments to the school, but that's because she does that everywhere she goes, wherever she visits, you know? I mean, she's not part of the institution. I'm not sure if she accepted the offer to be honorary principal to begin with, and the reason why I say this is because somebody else is claiming that this institution is very, very pushy. There's this scholar and celebrity named Tsuneyasu Takeda, and he's a great-great-grandchild of Meiji Emperor, and of course he's a conservative. But he says that he went to another school that the institution owns and gave a lecture there, and he was impressed by the education as the children were great. Like, they were smart and they behaved very well and so on. But after he went back to give the second lecture there, he was asked for money, as the institution wanted to make a new school named Shinzo Abe Memorial School. Mr. Takeda and Prime Minister Abe are great friends, but so Mr. Takeda wondered if they had the permission to use Abe's name, especially because Mr. Abe is very sophisticated and he wouldn't have such a preference to name a school like that, you know what I mean? And also Mr. Takeda is very well known, like very popular, very famous, so he was cautious that if he gives money to the institution, his name might be used for commercials and so forth, so he clearly declined the request to help them and didn't help the institution, okay? However, his name ended up as a supporter on the school website without his permission. We can't trust the institution right now, you know, so I don't understand how Dudden can magically see things clearly without enough information and believes what the institution insists, which is that they have connections with Prime Minister Abe and his wife. And also, it's interesting to see that it looks like Dudden is jumping to the conclusion that Mrs. Abe must be right-wing to praise the school or something. Like, don't get tricked, guys. Mrs. Abe does support Prime Minister Abe, but that is because he's her husband. But we Japanese do not regard her as conservative. Like, she's very well known as having different opinions from Prime Minister Abe. She's often described as Katena Yato, which means at-home opposition party, and even Prime Minister Abe has been using the expression for a while, like publicly and openly. And there's this good article which describes how she is titled Japan's First Lady Akie Abe speaks her own mind on the Japan Times, so I recommend reading it. I'll link it below. I'll introduce two parts of the article which I think portray her very well, and I'll quote. It means nothing to be the Prime Minister's wife in Japan. She is just the wife of a Prime Minister, Akie says. She's not a member of the imperial family, so she doesn't have any official duties. She gets no budget from the government, nor she is afforded any protection from police. Another part is this: I'm one of the few people in this country who can talk to a wide range of people from emperor to the homeless. And this is very true because she even hangs out with extreme leftists that are dangerous. And we were shocked one day when we saw the picture of them like all together like on Facebook, you know. So she has a great role, I guess, in the society. With that being said, I get the impression that Dudden thinks that she believes otherwise because she uses examples as if Mrs. Abe was praying the school and also became honorary principal because she's right-wing. You know, like I could be wrong, but that's the impression that I get from the article. Just so you know, even non-political people here in Japan are saying that Mrs. Abe is a little too free-minded and that she should be more aware that she's the wife of our prime minister and that she needs to be more responsible for her action. Like, you know, something on the line as like come back to earth from the imaginary world, you know what I mean? And that is the criticism that we hear in Japan towards Mrs. Abe, and our criticism is not her being right-wing or leaning towards the right, because she isn't, you know? That's a common sense here in Japan, even though the expert on East Asian issues, Professor Dudden, might have missed it. And Dudden also says the Japanese side is now debating the involvement of senior ruling party members, including Abe, in the deeply discounted sale of the land to the school due to buried waste on the site. To be fair, we couldn't really judge on that when her article was published, but after a few days, this conservative National Diet member named Masamune Wada, who is a former NHK anchor / reporter, posted on Facebook on the 17th saying that on the acquirement of the land, politicians are not much involved. Even if they are, it's very slight, and while there might be some problems with the deal between the institution and the Regional Finance Bureau, in the end, it's legal. Now, he's wondering if the opposition parties will keep bashing the issue while they should have some of the basic information themselves by now as well. So back to Dudden, I find it odd that she doesn't talk about the land sales for North Korean schools in Japan, where they worship North Korean leaders in another country, Japan, or land discount for Asahi, Yomiuri, and NHK, which are our news publishing companies. Japanese people are angry at these discounts for another nation or for the anti-Japan leftists. You know, this is something that was questioned at the committee by the National Diet member Hodaka Maruyama the other day, just so you know. Dudden goes on, worse, these are children doing what adults tell them to do. Yeah, exactly, so say that to China, North Korea, or South Korea, or all the other nations. Let's see. Does she ever criticize state-run schools in China that openly teach hatred to minorities, deny the largest genocide in the world, and teaches kids to become weapons? Also, China produces extremely anti-Japan movies based on their fabrications and fantasies, and make the citizens watch them because that's the tool the Chinese Communist Party used to motivate their military, you know, as you can see in the news and so forth. And it is also used to unite the citizens' opinions towards Japan, I guess. And in North Korea, I don't have to even explain this, I guess, but they worship their leaders since they are very little. And even in South Korea, I believe that little children draw pictures about Takeshima Island disputes or Japanese soldiers being evil and so forth because they are taught to hate on the Japanese. I know that there are way more things that I don't know of which experts like Dudden should be teaching us about, but somehow they never do. So Dudden is trying to create this impression that some Japanese people are crazy, and so is our administration, and intentionally or unintentionally she loses her balance by being silent on other nations like I mentioned. What's happening is that she cares about what a private school in Japan teaches and doesn't care about what other nations teach, you know? This means that in her expert scale, a private school equals to a nation, and that is not being fair. It's so unpleasant to me as a Japanese that she only wants to demonize Japan in the eyes of Americans. And if I was writing an article like this, I would use a fair approach to let the readers know where Japan stands in the international society. At the same time though, I will say this. The private school in Japan was making the little children memorize all the phrases to cheer up our prime minister. And I personally do not like the idea of mixing up patriotism with current politics. Meaning that I don't agree to adults deciding the political options for little children, as it's apparent that they can't think for themselves, and as you know, for this reason they don't have the right to vote. So even though it's a private school and it's legal to teach whatever they want to teach, basically, that is something that should be reconsidered by the school, in my opinion. But the thing is, the education of patriotism is essential for any nation. You know, like it's part of what makes a nation. America saw how globalization and all the teachings of guilt instead of pride began to destroy people's lives both inside and outside of the nation, and Japanese have seen that as well over here. Yet somehow Dudden and the American press want to deny the same rights in Japan to be patriotic and protect our core values. Don't we have the rights to be proud and everything? Are they bashing the private school or our patriotism? Americans have seen the left attack President Trump irrationally over the past few months. And we need to stand together, guys, against the left globalization and that demonizes shared values like the school was teaching the kids. Another thing is, as I mentioned a couple times already, Moritomo Gakuen is a private school, meaning that they can teach anything they want. And this means that Dudden is criticizing the legal acts, right? Then don't you think that she should be bashing the education of Japan teachers unions as well? A lot of you might not be familiar with the issues here, so I will briefly explain. But first of all, what is the Japan Teachers Union? It's something that we conservatives in Japan hate and have been fighting against. And the union is pretty much the same as AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, I believe. Now let's look at the historical background of the Japan Teachers Union. Under Comintern in Soviet, Educational Workers International was established, and the Japanese branch of that is the original version of the Japan Teachers Union. And the union was raised by GHQ, which had lots of communist spies inside and around. So now teachers from the Japan Teachers Union are encouraging this famous phrase by the left, which is Abe seiji o yurusanai, meaning we don't permit or allow or give in Abe administration even though he was chosen democratically. And this means that teachers in public schools are often teaching how evil they think the current Abe administration is. And some were even caught giving out handouts like that, or others were caught putting up the signs like that in classroom. And I'd love to say to them, "You're fired," but I can't because I don't think they will be fired. I remember some crazy anti-Trump teachers in America, and I would say that the same things have been going on here as well in Japan, and I hope that you get the idea. And leftists also bring little children to political demonstrations and make them hold signs to bash Abe administration. So rather, leftists use children as a political tool. And that's their overly used tactics, which conservatives have been bashing all these years. How come Dudden doesn't expose that and only bashes Moritomo Gakuen? Like, why such an expert like her doesn't talk about an actual problem with a bigger scale? You know, like, again, she's not making a fair argument at all to my eyes. Let's get back to the article. Dudden goes on and calls our culture and history like this: the cult of emperor worship that drove the nation to catastrophic war. Hello, Professor Dudden. Hello from the other side. Seriously, like, the Japanese emperors have the history of over 2,677 years. Regarding our emperors, nothing has changed after the war. You know, so given her understanding was true, the cult of emperor worship must have always put Japan in war 24/7, non-stop, constantly, without any break. You know how ridiculous her argument is? Like, let me put it this way. What if someone said the same thing about the Pope? The Vatican has encouraged and led more wars in its shorter history. Yet, what would you say if Dudden said all Catholic schools, churches, etc. should not teach Catholicism because the Pope worship might lead to another crusade? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's as silly as if you give a white man a gun, he will go kill an Indian and enslave a black man. How can anybody reasonably believe this without seeing through the racism? Racism that is the core of her position. Man, like, she has to stop the habit of looking at things one-sidedly. Sorry, this is getting long, but let's go on with the article. So, of course, Dudden then talks about Nippon Kaigi. Leftists always do here in Japan. How relevant to the scandal? I'm being sarcastic, of course. This proves that the expert Dudden is nothing more than a copycat of the leftists here. I don't know if you know about Nippon Kaigi, but Nippon Kaigi is nothing more than an association of all kinds of conservative groups in Japan. Like, you know, in America, I believe that Americans have their own conservative coalitions as well as leftist coalitions. So why treat Japan so differently? You know, Nippon Kaigi doesn't actually have the function like an organization like they do in labor unions. Basically, they just get registered and they just have events a couple times throughout the year. Like locally, some people might be gathering signatures or something, but that is to bring awareness because most of the people are just non-political people. It's so funny because I am surrounded by Nippon Kaigi people and they're super normal. Like they just have political thoughts and Japanese pride like I do. Like, you know, just like in your country, the picture is the other way around. Like the Nippon Kaigi people are sick and tired of all the things that we are imposed by leftists who carry on the teachings of socialists coming from New Deal generation. I'm rather scared by the leftist networks where they are connected to even overseas, like you saw with anti-Trump movements and Female March and International Women's Day and so forth. They did that here in Japan as well. In addition to that, leftists here always protest in front of the official residence of our Prime Minister with drums and other noises. The real scandal that's been spreading around here in Japan for years now is that those protesters are professional leftists that are paid and they belong to the Japanese Communist parties or other leftist parties or organizations. Dudden was pointing out that Nippon Kaigi has 40,000 members nationwide, but hey, tens of thousands of leftists get together in Tokyo to protest. Or even in Okinawa or in other places. And what do they insist after all? They want to end our culture of emperors, meaning ending our nation, so that they could bring more globalism and then communism to Japan. They want to change our nation. Or they could just let China take over here. And now what does Dudden think of that? Like who and what would actually turn Japan evil? In Dudden's head, globalism or communism seems to be the key to peace, I suppose. But when leftists like her insist that Japan will be evil and such, I always wonder to myself, like, where are we heading to? You know, like, where are we going to take over? Based on what strategy? And where do we have such money to do that? And where is the proof of their words? Like, do they just imagine things because they have the racist way of thinking like I mentioned earlier? So as I said, Professor Dudden is copying the leftist logic from here in Japan. But what is the practical reason for her to bash the private school and Nippon Kaigi? Both Moritomo Gakuen and Nippon Kaigi have a lot to do with a bunch of conservatives here. So if she made it to demonize those organizations, she could bash and destroy all the conservatives all at once, she probably thinks. Because that's very efficient, you know? And what's more, as I said, Prime Minister Abe even bets his political life on it. So that's why leftists were very, very desperate on this issue. I mean, they don't have anything else to bash the administration on, so they are hanging on to it while they can. Dudden also talks about LDP, which is Prime Minister Abe's party, and she pointed out that the party changed the rules to allow the head of the party a third term. Just so you know, this is legal under our democracy, okay? And that's why they did it. What I mean is that I can see that she's trying to build up this conspiracy that's common here, which is that Nippon Kaigi is a dark force behind the administration, but no. Nippon Kaigi has been around for decades while different politicians were in power. So I'm like, stop your stupid imagination and do the freaking actual investigation so that you'll be mortified by how stupid you're being right now. Like, just think about it realistically. If Nippon Kaigi was as strong as Dudden or any leftists believe, Japan would have a new constitution by now. Right? We would have the military by now. Our economy would have been so much better by now if they were that powerful. You know? I wish that instead of Nippon Kaigi, she would talk about the blue ribbon badge that Kagoike, the man in charge, is always wearing. Like, I don't know if he really means it to wear it because he could be just doing the political appeal, but that's the badge that all Japanese conservatives wear You know, like I have it too right here. See, this is blue and it's a ribbon. So yeah, we wear this. And there are other kinds as well, but this is the original. This is for the Japanese citizens that were abducted by North Korea. In case you're not familiar with the abduction, I will link this website that explains well in the description box. Okay, so check it out. But anyway, so we Japanese want to rescue all our people that were kidnapped by North Korea, as they're still captured there, and the badge is our symbol for that. There are nearly 1,000 possible Japanese victims of the abduction, and Kim Jong-il admitted that his nation did abduct Japanese people. However, we can't go rescue them due to our current constitution and everything. No wonder why North Korea is freely and happily launching fireworks and playing, missiles. The reason why I brought it up is because this abduction thing is another thing that all conservatives here have a lot to do with, like more people than Nippon Kaigi probably. Like, you know, we get together and hold some events or collect signatures and so forth. So we all want to rescue them all, but somehow Dudden is silent on that. But yeah, she only wants to talk about certain things like Moritama Gakuen and Nippon Kaigi, and not Sukukai, which is the name of the association for the abduction of Japanese people by North Korea. And the name means the group to rescue. So she's supposed to be an expert on East Asia, and I doubt this, but maybe she didn't know about the abduction by North Korea nor the group to rescue. Even if she did know, I'm pretty sure that she would ignore, because if she wrote about it, she would no longer be able to demonize the Japanese conservatives anymore. So Dudden's article started off by a growing scandal, right? But you know what other actual scandals are? The biggest opposition party, called Democratic Party in Japan, they always commit crimes, and I am so ashamed. For example, this female politician named Shiori Yamao, who is a Democrat, illegally used our money by wrongdoing, such as requesting an enormous amount of money as her gasoline expense that was worth 5 laps of the earth in a year. Which of course she didn't use, she just wanted the money. And her nickname given by the Japanese conservatives is gasoline. Like gasoline, like it kind of sounds like a French or English, whatever. Another example is a leader of the Democratic Party named Renho. Just imagine a small version of Hillary, but not that rich, okay? Like, she's a complete liar. So Renho was caught having dual nationality, and that's illegal here by our nationality laws. The additional awful thing to her is that she says that she is half Taiwanese. But there are a few kinds of Taiwanese people, like the big rough idea that I can tell you is that, so there are Taiwanese people that were originally there, and there are others who came after the World War II from China to Taiwan. Renho studied in Beijing while college and so forth, and what she insists only benefits China, you know, always. So we all know where her soul is and who she is working for. So the leader of the biggest opposition party in Japan is basically a Chinese woman with dual nationality, well, maybe no longer, but and changing things from the inside politically. And the party has a few naturalized National Diet members from South Korea as well, it seems. So don't open borders, because this is what happens. Anyways, I derailed a little bit, but so the two female politicians from the Democratic Party, they get to get away with their crimes, right? Like, those are clearly crimes that they're committing, but they get to get away. And there are also other politicians in Social Democratic Party, for example, that give or get money involving people with power. On the other hand, the mainstream media won't leave this private school alone. Like, if you want to bash the private school, just bash them all, like even the leftists, you know? So what I'm trying to say is that even though Dudden is trying to make the impression that this dark force named Nippon Kaigi would make Prime Minister Abe Hitler, which would make the emperor turn evil somehow and blah blah blah, the world today is dominated by the leftists. I know you know what I mean if you're watching this from America. Japan is a little bit better, I guess, but as you can see, when you look at the world, we are not even allowed to make a fair argument like I did in this video. Because people like Dudden impose their one-sided biased views onto people just because she is supposed to be an expert, right? And here's a question to you. Do you really think that she is an expert after all the points that I refuted? Like, she doesn't even have a common sense. And she's an expert and we should all listen to her? Seriously? What does this all tell you? To me, it tells me that leftists are the ones that are suppressing us. Leftists are the ones that are silencing us and imposing their ideas onto us like dictators do. They even pretend that experts who talk about the truth didn't exist. They do exist. They're everywhere, but they are suppressed. What's happening in the world today is that now, of course, everyone knows about fake news. Thank Trumpness! In addition, it's the same for academics, like it's the same for professors and historians, because only the leftist logic or stories get told one after another and they spread around, while there are the true experts who are revealing all the lies that leftists tell. But those experts get ignored or bashed like a bully and they are considered like non-existent. It must be easy for leftists to suppress those who oppose to them though, because they have authorities, networks, and money to do that. And this is why we can't talk about the real dictators in the world, such as the modern Nazi in Asia named the Chinese Communist Party, or globalists in the world. We are in this bad circulation where we can't reach to the actual information, actual history, actual analysis, and no wonder we end up feeding the same kind of evils and keep making the same kind of problems. And back to the subject of Japan, please do not worry about Prime Minister Abe turning evil, because he isn't. He's rather a savior. You know, he is loved. You know, the cabinet support rates and the seats that they have been historical. And we have democracy here and they are not dictators. You know, we are choosing them. And the majority of us Japanese are passively conservative, I have to say. And just because the media here or the leftist politicians or leftist activists are loud, don't misunderstand the silent majority or this whole nation. Now let's think together. Why do leftists like Dudden report stuff like this, even though it's ridiculous? One thing is probably for their acts, like they want to boost their reputation somehow and build a career. But what is this really about? Especially considering that this is coming from Dudden, who is an expert in America. This is not only about Moritomo Gakuen, regardless of how it seems. This is about bashing Prime Minister Abe with whatever the leftists can find, and if not simultaneously, eventually, to bash President Trump. Because Prime Minister Abe is like President Trump in Japan, and because Prime Minister Abe is in such a good relationship with President Trump, meaning that in the end, this is about America. They're gonna use whatever they can find to get to you. By attacking Prime Minister Abe, Dudden and her ilk are trying to separate Japan and America. But who benefits? Don't let globalism and its leftist henchmen trick you. Because, trust me, they have great strategies. Leftists in the world are that desperate to destroy us, both of us. Meaning that we're in this fight together now. So let's keep and strengthen our ties. Well, to begin with, you can spread this video to those who are around you. That would be great. So I guess I'm done. So if you want more videos from me, please subscribe to this channel. And also check out my Patreon page if you want me to get more power for you and I. So thank you so much for sticking till the end. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me because I put so much into this video. Please take care until I talk to you next time. Anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Bye!